So I found the forum question to be surprisingly complex and almost to the point of being unwieldy. Let me read it to you. What are my beliefs and practices that shape how I engage language and culture in English language education, in my local context? It's almost disappointing that there's not one more preposition introducing one more clause. And each of those clauses that we have deserves some attention, but there's no possible way for me to address all those elements in a 2-minute video when it takes a half a minute even to just read the question. So instead, let me give my overarching philosophy as it relates to language and, by extension, language education. And that is that there is a tension but also a utility to two ends of a spectrum. The first being the established, normative, you might say standard version of the language to include all of its vocabulary, all of its syntax, and its pronunciation. And then there's the ever-evolving contemporary way that the language is actually used by real living people within their cultures. So, to cite just one example, consider the word creature. Now, I think that the widely held connotation of that word among the general public in America, in most dialects, is that a creature is a monster. You go to the movies and see the creature feature, it means you're going to see a movie about monsters. However, the basic definition of that word is a created being. So, a monkey, a human, a chipmunk, and a mosquito are creatures to the extent that a superior being, superior power created them. It doesn't necessarily have to be theistic. Natural processes could have created them, but they are creatures if they are created. A monster is a monster. Now, the point of the example is this, that it serves you well, serves you best, to be as aware as possible of this full range of meanings. You shouldn't strive for the common sort of, again I'll say pedestrian version of the word to the exclusion of its standard, proper, traditional meaning. But neither should you seek out that proper version or that established version to the exclusion of the more populous understanding of the word. You want to understand both. That extends also to regional dialects as well. So, my philosophy is that a student of English, or any other language for that matter, should be familiar with the standard, proper form of the language, but also the person who speaks close to that norm, and I don't think anyone really speaks the proper form. Nobody speaks as if every word came from the dictionary. But even if your speech is close to that, you're not off the hook, because you also need to learn the dialects and the variations of language. It's, of course, to say proper is already wrong. There is no proper English. But there are connotations that are appropriate and useful in one context and less so in another. So, if I say God loves his creatures, you shouldn't insist that I'm saying a ridiculous thing, that I'm saying God loves monsters. On the other hand, if I say, the creature in the zombie movie was scary, you shouldn't insist that, well, God didn't make zombies, or nature didn't make zombies. One meaning is appropriate in one context, another meaning in another context. It doesn't really matter what is correct, because one is correct in one case, the other is correct in another case. So my philosophy about language in any local context is that you want to approach it holistically with an awareness and appreciation for the range of meanings that each word, phrase, syntactic construct, and pronunciation can have. And then you select, like an artist who selects different shades of red for different applications, you select the proper, there I go again, the appropriate application of the word for the context you have in mind, either as a speaker or someone receiving the language. That's my philosophy. I guess that's a little bit more than 2 minutes. Aren't you glad I didn't go over the other clauses of the question?